My name is Nicole Kerr. I am the director here at Castle's Wellness and Lifestyle Medicine Center. I am delighted to say we are the only hospital in Hawaii that actually has a dedicated center for wellness and lifestyle medicine. And that goes back to our Adventist health heritage of being really prevention oriented. If you guys know about the Blue Zones, we are a Blue Zone certified work site, the first in the state of Hawaii. And we really do want you to be healthy. Tonight we're partnering with the Vegetarian Society, so I want to thank Lorraine and Jim very much for their help and their support to bring our speaker over. Let's give them a round of applause. So without further ado, I want to introduce tonight's guest speaker. She is Dr. Roseanne Oliveira. She is coming to us from the University of California at Davis. She is the founding director of integrative medicine at the University of California Davis School of Medicine. She has over 20 years of experience as a molecular geneticist and has a special interest in nutritional genetics and genomics. Does anybody genomics? There we go, genomics. Okay, and for those of you who do not know what that is, she's going to explain that, okay? Actually, it explores the interplay between diet and genes in the prevention of disease and promotion of health and longevity. She is a native of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and has lived in the United States since 2003. We are delighted to welcome her back to Hawaii and are looking forward to hearing what you have to say tonight. So here's a little aloha. Okay, there you go.
Good. So we're going to be talking today about how to be 100 and healthy, because it's two things that don't come together. So if you're lucky enough to get to be 100, you may not be healthy, right? And if you're not healthy, you may not get to be 100, right? So we're going to do our best to show you that those two things actually go together. If you do what you're supposed to do, if you do your job to be healthy, the likelihood of you getting to be 100 is very high. And if you do your job well, if we do get to be 100, which I hope most of you will make it, I sure hope I'll make it, and you're going to be 100 and healthy. So that's the purpose of today's lecture. So as you can imagine, for us to be, any one of us in this room, for us to be able to get to be 100, we need to avoid one of the four big chronic conditions, right? So chronic conditions in the US is responsible for 7 out of 10 deaths. And what are the big ones? Is obesity with type 2 diabetes, it's cardiovascular disease and includes hypertension, coronary heart disease, strokes, right? Cancers, they're dreaded. So I said I combine obesity and diabetes, but it's basically type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, cancer, and like I said, obesity. And 1 out of every 2 adults in the US takes at least one prescription medication, which means that half of the US population already has a chronic condition. And a fourth takes 3 or more. So getting to be 100 is hopefully getting to be 100 without taking prescription drugs too. Maybe 1 or 2, but not statins, not the ones that are really, really critical, right? So, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. So when you talk about the 4 chronic conditions, 75% of them are caused by 4 factors. And we are very familiar with them. The first one is tobacco. Like if you smoke, your likelihood of developing one of the 4 big ones is very high. 2 is stress reduction. Then physical inactivity. So it's important to be active. But the one we're going to be focused on is food choices. And why is that? So tobacco is a given. So nobody's trying to convince us that smoking is health promoting, right? Physical activity is a given too. So we know it's important to be active. And we're going to be talking about physical activity. It's important to be active but it's more important to be active than going to the gym. Those two things are not, exercising is not the same as being active, right? So if you are active, if you do your crafts, if you walk every day, if you go see your friends and you walk, you are active. There's no need for you to have to go to the gym and work out for an hour every single day. So it's two different things. Stress reduction is also something. Stress can also increase our risk to develop one of those diseases. But the thing is, we can live a day that we don't exercise and we can be fine, right? So exercise, if we go 3, 4, 5 times a week, it's okay, right? Stress reduction, some people are going to be more mellow than the others. Stress not going to be something that's going to affect them as much. If they don't smoke, so it's something that it's not going to, have an impact. But food, it's something that no matter what, you have to have every single day, at least 3 times a day. And it's the most intimate relationship we have with our environment, right? So that's why, of course, tobacco by itself is very carcinogenic. We have all of the bad things about tobacco. So with tobacco, one of the bad things about it is because it's also very intimate relationship with the environment, right? So you smoke and all of that bad stuff goes inside of you. Food is the same thing. And food is biochemistry. Anything that goes into our body is going to be changing our biochemistry. It's going to be changing how we operate inside, okay? So we're going to be focused on why we recommend low-fat, whole-food, plant-based diet. So usually I wait until the end to break the good news that that's the diet you should follow. But today I'm going to say that's what we recommend, and we're going to start backwards, and then you're going to be showing why is it that we recommend that, okay? So this is a fast car, and the reason I put it here is to show you there's this molecule called mTOR. If you forget everything else I say in this lecture, but you remember mTOR, it's good enough. mTOR is the one molecule that is linked to aging and linked to every single one of the 4 big diseases. Remember I said, so it's usually we think about longevity, but we don't link to the 4 big diseases, but it's all linked through mTOR. mTOR is a molecule that basically regulates how fast we grow, okay? So, and the analogy that we use is mTOR is like a very fast car going at high speed, going into a slow speed region with no brakes and no driver. So that's the way we go into life. And there's an evolutionary reason for that. So back in the days, many hundreds, millions of years ago, what we wanted to do is we would be born and we wanted to grow as fast as possible, reach reproduction age, leave offsprings, right, have babies, and then die of external causes, killed by a big animal or be killed by somebody else. So it was very important for us to just grow as fast as we could, leave our babies, and then our mission on Earth was done. But now that we stay longer, we don't want mTOR to be the whole time active, because the more TOR is being expressed, like we say, the more TOR is on, the faster we age, and the higher the likelihood that we're going to get a disease. But because nature is perfect, nature has one break for TOR. And the one break for TOR is calorie restriction. So I don't know if you're familiar with it, but there's this big society that is called Society for Calorie Restriction. It's people that keep their calorie intake around 500 every day. Some people eat one day and don't eat the other because they think that that's the way they're going to increase their longevity. And it makes sense too. If we have excess food, back in the days that we were going to be killed by external causes, if we have a lot of food, we grow super fast, right? But if we lack food, then our growth slow down a little bit. But today, we live in abundance. So usually what happens is most people have mTOR in overdrive the whole time, okay? And I'm here to tell you that you can break it. And if you use the break, and it's a better break than calorie restriction, and if you use it right, longevity rises, and your chances to be the 4 big ones is very, very big too, okay? All right, so mTOR, I gave you the spiel. So mTOR is naturally encountered in milk. So mother's milk, it's something that when we drink, it's not that it's in the mother's milk, but it responds to mother's milk. Because if you're a baby and you drink your mother's milk, mTOR goes up to make sure you grow as fast as you can. The problem is that human beings develop the habit of continue to drink milk past infancy. So milk is baby food. And not only do humans drink baby food past infancy, they drink milk from a different species. So this is one of the main reasons why mTOR is constantly in overdrive. And the more milk and the more dairy we drink, the more we make mTOR continue to be in overdrive. We age faster, and our chances to get cancer, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease increase as well. Because mTOR, like I said, helps you grow. So it's always keeping the whole machine of growth going on. Cancer relates to growth. Obesity relates to growth. Type 2 diabetes relates to growth. So that's what we don't want to have, okay? So like I said, it's going to be very hard for you to see, but calorie restriction is a way to break it, to put a break on mTOR. But the interesting thing is that researchers found out that the proportion of protein that you eat also can put a break in mTOR. So it's not so much the calories. It is the calories if it's someone eating the standard American diet. But if you reduce the amount of protein you eat, you also put a break in mTOR. So we see a lot of people discussing that, yeah, more protein, more protein. When we say plant-based diet, people say, where do you get the protein? Well, we get plenty and we don't get excess. Anytime you get excess protein, mTOR is going to be highly active, right? And it's just not all proteins. Specifically, proteins that are so here, reductions in protein source without any change in calorie level also have the same effect. So if someone eats 2,000 calories a day, but reduces protein, will put the same break as someone that is eating 500 calories a day because they're restricting all of it. So what would you prefer, to reduce protein or to reduce calories? I would prefer to reduce protein. It's a lot easier. But not only that, but it's protein that is rich in leucine. And the good news for me, the bad news for those who eat animal protein is that leucine is very abundant in animal protein. And that's another reason why we tell people to avoid animal protein. So it's not just the dairy, but proteins in general. So this is the amount of leucine that you can get in 100 grams of serving of foods, eggs, dairy, and meat. Now if we put here the plant-based foods, you see beans, grains, vegetables, and fruits, very little. For you to get the same amount of leucine that you get in dairy and meat, for instance, you would have to eat 100 apples or 9 pounds of cabbage, which nobody does, right? So, and if we break this down, you see the amount is absurd. So anytime you are eating animal protein, you are activating leucine and you are making mTOR being overdrive. So if my lecture stopped now, you would know how to put a break in mTOR and decrease your risk of cancer, decrease your risk of type 2 diabetes, decrease your risk of cardiovascular disease, and increase your risk to reach 100 and being healthy. Just that. But we are going to continue. All right. So IGF-1, you cannot see, there's a whole bunch of dairy here. So it's the second molecule, and I promise it's the only two I'm going to be talking about. This is insulin growth-like factor, and it works similarly than mTOR. It's not as prevalent as mTOR, but it's the same thing. It's a driver of proliferation, it's a driver of growth. And this molecule is present in dairy. So dairy is bad for two reasons. It makes mTOR continue to be in overdrive the whole time, and also gives you IGF-1 the whole time, and you don't want either, okay? You have some, but not the whole time. So, and it's also the amount of protein in the dairy that is going to be activating IGF-1, all right? So you see here that this is the IGF-1 level in vegans, those that do not eat animal protein, vegetarians. Like I said, vegetarians keep the dairy. If you keep the dairy, mTOR is going to continue to be activated, IGF-1 will continue to be activated. And these are the meat eaters, so there's no difference really. As long as you're eating dairy, IGF-1 and mTOR will continue to be on. Vegans. And not only that, but vegans will have higher binding proteins, proteins that bind IGF-1 and takes IGF-1 out of the circulation. So vegans will capture IGF-1 better than vegetarians and meat eaters. Again, vegetarians and meat eaters, very similar. And remember when I said mTOR responds well to calorie restriction. So if for any reason you prefer to continue to eat everything that you eat, but you prefer to just eat 500 calories a day, be my guest. It probably is going to reduce mTOR, but the bad news is it has no effect on IGF-1. Calorie restriction doesn't diminish IGF-1, only mTOR, okay? So you see here. And what researchers were trying to point out is maybe IGF-1, because it's proliferation and is involved in obesity, maybe it's because vegans are naturally leaner. It's because of their BMI that they produce less IGF-1. So they put to the test. And they compare vegans that had a BMI of more or less 21 with omnivores. They had a BMI around 21, and you see it is also a difference here. But vegans had a BMI of 21 just by choosing the food that they ate. The omnivores who have a BMI of 21, they were endurance runners, meaning that they were running 5 to 6 hours almost every single day. So I prefer to avoid animal proteins and have my BMI of 21 or even less, and making sure IGF is down, mTOR is down, and my chances to reach 100 and healthy are higher and higher. And here's the omnivore, even higher. Okay, and then just to show, then they compare vegans with omnivores that were on calorie restriction, no change. So if you're omnivore, calorie restriction has no effect on IGF-1, only mTOR. So no hope. All right, so that's the most science we're going to see today. Now it's all easy from now on, okay? So always comes back to food. And to get a cue from a host, I didn't know this hospital was affiliated with the Blue Zones, but I'm going to be talking about the Blue Zones. For those of you that don't know what that means, the Blue Zones are the 5 areas in the world where people reach the age of 100 10 times more often than any other place in the world. So what they started to do is, so let's go to these places, let's study what is it that they have in common, and maybe we understand how is it that you can get to be 100 and be healthy, correct? So these places are Okinawa in Japan, Sardinia in Italy, Icaria in Greece, Nicoya in Costa Rica, and Loma Linda in California. Usually people don't know why, but this group knows. It's because of the big Seventh-day Adventist group that is there in Loma Linda. Okay, so people in the Blue Zones reach age 100 at 10 times the average rate of the rest of the world, like I said. So they have a few things in common. They move naturally, which is what I said before. It's not about exercise, not about going to the gym. It's you being active on a regular basis. Maybe it's just like picking fruit from your fruit tree, or just doing your chores, or cleaning the house. Being active is what matters. 2 is having the right outlook. So basically, people in the Blue Zones, they have a purpose, right? So they may be retired, they may not even be in the workforce anymore, but they know their purpose in life, and they are proud of it. You know, either because they are there to be examples for the family, or they are the glue that ties the whole family together. You see these Blue Zones, they revere the elderly more so than some other populations, and this is very, very important. Then eat wisely, which is what we're going to be discussing next. Wine at 5, it's the only thing that I don't agree with, and you understand why. It's plants, land, and they follow the 80% rule. We're going to cover all of that. And the last thing is they have the sense that connect. So their loved ones first, always. So family and loved ones come first. They have a sense of belonging, and they have a sense of living among people that are similar to them. So they belong to the right tribe. They have that sense of belonging. So all of that. But of course, we're going to be focused on the eat wisely. And the 80% rule is what in Japan they call the Hari Hachibu, which is eat until you're 80% full. So it's great that this audience will understand this night. So there's this tendency in the US that you eat until you're past full, right? It's like you don't have the next meal. But so eat until 80% satisfied, and that's it, because in 3-4 more hours you're going to eat again. So you're not going to starve. And if you think about it, it's a way of doing some sort of calorie restriction. It's not, because calorie restriction to work the way if you follow the standard American diet, you would have to be 50 to 80% less calories than you would eat in a given day, which you don't want to do, right? But the basic here is plant-slate. So if you notice, all 5 Blue Zones where people reach the age of 100 more often are plant-slants. So the diet is mostly, predominantly plant-based, okay? So, and there's one food that ties all 5 regions together. So much so that they say if you eat a cup of this food every single day, it can add up to 4 years to your life. Who can tell me what food it is? Yeah, you know. Anybody else? Yes. Beans. Different beans. In Japan, it's soy, right? Soybeans. In Costa Rica, it's going to be the black beans. And In the Mediterranean, it can be the garbanzo beans. It's going to be different beans. In Loma Linda, I have no idea. Maybe all of them. I know in Brazil, I'm from Brazil. I'm a big bean eater, whole South America. But it changes. In Rio, it's black bean. In São Paulo, it's brown bean. And so it's different. But beans is the theme. That's the one food that is common to all 5 regions. Okay? Let me read this one from here. It says the intake of legumes, beans, chickpeas, split peas, and lentils may be the single most important dietary predictor of a long lifespan. So all 5 regions eat beans every single day. Okay? And there was this interesting study that compared the effect of beans versus calorie restriction. Now we understand why they use calorie restriction, right? So they study a group of people, they had metabolic syndrome. So they were in higher risk of developing type 2 diabetes. So one group, they asked to reduce the amount of calories they ate every day by 500 calories. So if you eat 2,000 calories, you need to eat 1,500 calories, okay? The other group said you continue to eat your 2,000 calories, so no restriction. And on top of it, you eat a cup of beans every single day. So after the experiment was done, the group that were asked to eat more calories from beans lost more weight, lost more waist circumference, and they had lowered the risk for type 2 diabetes as compared to the group that was restricting calories to lose weight, because they say you're overweight and that's why your risk of getting type 2 diabetes is high. So it's not the amount of food you're eating, it's the type of food you're eating. And if you're eating the right type of food, you'll never have to worry about amounts, calories, portion, ever again. Another important message that I want you to take home today is food is a package deal. Okay, so when we talk about all of the science, all of the research that is being done, it's very easy for us to break down and say saturated fat is bad for us, right? Or polyunsaturated fat are the ones that we want, and we want the omega-3s and all of these things. But the thing is, we don't eat saturated fat. We don't go to the grocery store and I say 100 grams of saturated fat and a pound of omega-3. You eat the food, and the food comes with all of that. So there's no way for us to avoid one element in a certain food without avoiding everything else. And the same is true if we want to avoid something that is abundant like leucine, right, in animal protein. I cannot go to the grocery store and say, I want a pound of beef, but make sure to remove the leucine, because I know leucine keeps store in overdrive. There's no way. You get the whole package. You get the leucine, you get the saturated fat, you get the trans fat, you get everything. Okay? So, and that's what I put it here. I'm not going to talk about this, but I'm just telling, when we talk about animal protein, and that includes chicken and fish too, eggs, includes everything. It's not one thing, right? So we have research that shows saturated fat increases the risk of type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, obesity, hypertension, you name it. We have the research that shows that the protein percentage is important. Now you understand why. The more protein we have from animals, the more mTOR is in overdrive, right? We have heme, iron, we have the advanced glycosylated end products, we have changes in our microbiome, we have the amount of choline, the amino acid composition. I say leucine is an amino acid, methionine is another amino acid. Both are very high in animal protein, and both are very bad for us. The amount of cholesterol, I think here, like, there's no fiber in meat. So it's not just one thing, and sometimes we see a study that tries to see saturated fat is not as bad, bring the butter back. there's two problems at first. If you go back to the research, it's not what the research said to start with. And second, even if you were to, you just cannot isolate and then ignore this because everything else is coming in the package that you're choosing to bring to your house, okay? Just to give an example, when we talk about red meat, most people say, yes, let's reduce red meat first and let's get rid of red meat and then, but let me keep my chicken, let me keep my fish and my eggs, okay? So, and then not to go back to saturated fat, cholesterol, because those we have been discussing for a long, long time, but just the type of iron that we have in meat. There's two types of irons. Heme iron, which is what we find in our blood and in muscle. And non-heme iron, which is what we find in legumes, dark green leafy vegetables, all around the plant kingdom, not animal kingdom, right? So every 1 milligram more that you eat of heme iron, like I said, only comes in things that have blood or muscle. So it's not going to come from a bean. So every 1 milligram, and 1 milligram of heme iron you get in 100 grams of, which is like maybe 3 ounces of animal protein, increases your risk of coronary heart disease by 27%, increases your risk of type 2 diabetes by 16%, and increases your risk of cancer by 12%. And it's so, the changes in, like, what you were saying at the beginning, that my area of interest is genetics and genomics. So genetics is the genes that we are giving, right? So if we have the book of life and we open to read, we can see the letters and it's there, right? Genomics is knowing the order that you read the book, which chapter comes first, if you're going to skip a few pages and what you're going to, so it's the function, it's how the message gets written. Some pages may be glued and you won't be reading at all, so those are the genes that are off, they're not going to be expressed, okay? So certain diseases leave what we call genetic signatures. So anytime you have the disease, you see the same genes being expressed the same way. Heme iron leaves such message. So people that have lung cancer, if you check them, that's the cancer that they check, all of them have the same changes in gene expression that was related to heme iron metabolism. So it leaves a signature, and we are starting to understand more and more how this gene-diet interactions occur, and in the next 10 years, we're going to understand this very well for all the elements that I just said, but it's not something that we understand today. Chicken, okay. Let's see if we can do it. So if you eat 1.5 ounces of chicken every single day, your chances of colorectal cancer increase by 300%. 8% higher risk of type 2 diabetes, which is 80% higher than red meat. So chicken increases your risk of type 2 diabetes more than red meat. Essential tremor. 1 in every 20 men will have the shaking in the hands. 1 in every 5 men that reach the age of 80 will have essential tremor. It's related to the amount of meat, especially chicken. And just so you have an idea, so the amount of meat you eat is like 21 times the risk that you're going to have essential tremor. If you go back to the time when the link between smoking and lung cancer was first established, smoking would increase your likelihood of developing lung cancer 14x. Essential tremor is 21x, and is related to the amount of meat you eat. And chicken, 100% of chicken bought anywhere in the US comes with the bonus of bacteria that have resistance to multiple antibiotics. And for those people that say, oh, I only eat organic, organic only comes with 84% of the time. So there's a 16% chance that you won't get a really big bad bug in your chicken, but 84% chance that you will, even organic chicken. Eggs. Eating 1.5 eggs a week versus 1 egg per month increase your risk of colon cancer by 500%. Eating 2.5 eggs per week versus half an egg per week increases your risk of deadly prostate cancer by 81%. 61% increased risk of type 2 diabetes. And when you compare group that eat the most versus the fewest amount of eggs. 19% increased risk of cardiovascular disease, also in comparing people that eat the most amount of eggs versus the fewest. But if you have type 2 diabetes, then your chances of cardiovascular disease eating eggs goes up to 83%. And 25% increased risk of death if you eat eggs every single day. So no pretty. And just to show you, like, we're comparing two packages. Like I said, food is a package. Whichever food you choose to eat, you're going to have the whole deal. You're going to get the whole package. So just let's compare the package of meat versus the package of beans. 100 grams will have very similar calories. Meat will have 29 grams of fat. Beans will have 1.4. Beans, 0 saturated fat. Meat, 12 grams of saturated fat. Beans have 0 cholesterol. Your meat will come with 85 milligrams of cholesterol. Beans will give you 16 grams of fiber. Meat will give 0 fiber. Here, important. Beans will give 2.2 milligrams of non-heme iron. And meat will give 1 milligram of heme iron, the one that is going to increase your risk of cardiovascular disease and type 2 diabetes and all the other things. You're going to get similar amounts of protein, but this protein is going to be low in leucine and low in methionine. And while here you're going to have a lot of leucine. And beans will cost 1/5 of the meat. So there's no way to compare. Beans. So Japan, Okinawa, it's home of the world's longest lived women. And like I said, plant-based diet. If you go back to the original Okinawa diet, this is what it was. It was 96% plant-based. Because some people say, do I need to be 100? No. But you're going to be so close to 100 that you won't even miss meat. So these people here, they will eat fish, meat, dairy, once every other month. When you get to that and you say, do I really need to eat once every month? But the thing, when people ask, can I cheat? Can I eat? Yes, 3 times a year. But it's not every weekend. It's not every day. It's not a meal every day. It's very, very little, okay? So you see here, sweet potatoes, 70% of what they ate were sweet potatoes. 21% all the grains, whole grains, legumes, veggies, fruits, and nuts. Here, a little bit of sugars, oils, and alcohol, which is nothing, but like the majority plant-based, right? But if you go back to Okinawa now, you're going to find, I believe, 30 KFCs. So the protein that it was 9%, remember we said protein needs to be low? It used to be 9, now it's 15. Fat used to be 6%, now it's 27. Saturated fat used to be 2%, now it's 7%. And cholesterol, which was less than 1 milligram, now is over 159. So if you go back to Okinawa today, you see that since they start adopting a more Western diet, their life expectancy have plummeted, and some parents now outlive the children because the parents eat the way they used to, and the new generation doesn't eat like that anymore. Okay, so if you go to Greece, it's where the Mediterranean diet was first discovered or found or described. It was back in the 1950s. And when you talk about Mediterranean diet, most people think about this. Mediterranean diet works because of the fish, the olive oil, and the wine. They forgot all about the others, but the true Mediterranean diet that Ansukis first described in the 50s was 93% plant-based, just 7% animal foods, and had something they call mangia folia. Every single meal started with dark leaf greens. Mangia folia, folia is like eating leaves. No meal is complete without you eating leaves, right? So nobody talks about this now. And Ansukis, here's the cover Time magazine 1961, he says, the good Mediterranean diet is mainly vegetarian, much lower in meat and dairy, and fruit is the dessert. But even back on those days, he noticed that heart attacks were rare in the Mediterranean except among the small class of rich people whose diet differed from the rest of the population. They ate meat and dairy products every day instead of every week or two, okay? That was the difference. And then he said, this is him in 1995. So he described in the 50s. So this is 40 years after he described. And he said, we must consider what the Mediterranean diet is now, what used to be, and how it's changing. And he say, the current change in what we describe as Mediterranean diet destroy all the health virtues of the diet that he described. So what we call Mediterranean diet today is not the Mediterranean diet, okay? Then Dean Ornish say, of course, Mediterranean diet will be an improvement compared to the standard American diet, but if you choose to eat whole foods, plants that are also low in fat is much better, right? And the studies just show what is the single most important component in the Mediterranean diet. The reason why it works is the high consumption of plant foods, right? 40% reduction in mortality because of vegetables, fruits, nuts, and legumes. Not because of fish, not because of olive oil, not because of the wine, okay? And just to show, just one slide to show here. Red wine and endothelial function. So for us to see if something is health promoting or not, we need to know if it affects our vessels, right? Our endothelial. Endothelial cells are the cells that line all the vessels in the entire cardiovascular system. If something damages the endothelium, it's not health promoting, correct? So what they notice is, this font doesn't show up, but what they notice is that anytime someone would drink red wine, the effect, you couldn't see if there was a detrimental effect or a positive effect. But if someone would drink the same wine without the alcohol, the health of the endothelial cells improved. So meaning if you remove the alcohol, you get the benefit. So the benefit is not in the wine, the benefit is in the grape. So just wait the grapes. So just eat the grapes, keep the alcohol. So that's why I said the wine at 5 that we talk in the Mediterranean diet, the blue zones, wine at 5, especially in the Mediterranean. So I think the 5, it's wine at 5. If you see it as a way of you meeting with your friends, is the time that you socialize, that you get together, great. Get together and eat grapes. No need to drink the wine. All right. Olive oil is the same thing. So I just said endothelial cell. Anytime that something that you eat damages endothelial cells is no good for you. So you probably won't be able to read it, but they did this study. PREDIMED is prevention of heart disease through the Mediterranean diet, all right? And they study 7,500 people. They all had either type 2 diabetes or 3 risk factors for them to develop cardiovascular disease, all right? And they divided this in 3 groups, and I'm just giving you the results now, but I'm going to show another slide. So there's no change related to olive oil. And there was no association found for myocardial infarction, cardiovascular causes on all-cause mortalities. So people continue to drop dead because of cardiovascular disease, even though they were eating Mediterranean diet, but they were eating the Mediterranean diet that they believe is the Mediterranean diet, which is the Mediterranean diet now, not the one from the 1950s, which I just said. And just so you understand, so basically what they say is, this group, you eat Mediterranean diet, and I'm going to give you extra virgin olive oil, 1 liter per week, and you cook with it. So if something is health promoting, like broccoli, right? You can eat as much as you want, and the benefit is only going to go higher, correct? So we know that if you eat cruciferous vegetables, your risk of develop cancer decreases. So the more you eat is better. It's not something that's going to be detrimental. But here, nothing happened though. So same number of heart attacks, same number of deaths because of cardiovascular events, and same number of deaths. So olive oil or a control diet had the same number. So olive oil didn't protect anyone. So olive oil is not heart protective or health promoting. And this group received nuts, and there was no changes in any of the cardiovascular disease events. The only change was in stroke, but I'm not going to talk about it, but it was nuts. And the study here, let's say, contrary to what our hypothesis, omega-6 rich olive oil impairs or damages endothelial cell function as soon as you eat it. So right after you eat, you see that your endothelial cells cannot dilate for up to 3 hours. Then when it's finally recovering, then you go eat another meal filled with olive oil and other things. So then you wait another 3 hours, maybe you're going to sleep and then give a rest, then you wake up and you eat something in the morning that's also going to have oil or something else, okay? So what they say is that dietary fruits, vegetables, and the product protect against these changes in the endothelial function. So what happens is when you eat a Mediterranean diet, because it has fruits and vegetables, the fruits and vegetables kind of counter the bad effect of olive oil, and then olive oil goes as if it's the good one. But the good ones are the fruits and vegetables. And this has been proven, by the way, so it's not just a hypothesis. So it's not fish. And just to show you here, so when we talk about fish, and we're almost done, people want to keep fish for one reason only in their diet, because of omega-3, right? And omega-3 is good because it protects against heart disease, right? Cardiovascular disease. And this has been proven wrong. So all of the supplementations of omega-3 to date have been shown to have no effect on protection against cardiovascular disease. Omega-3 is still important for one reason, and is brain health, not cardiovascular health, right? But it also has been shown that if you eat fish for omega-3, you're also eating all the saturated fat and all of the pollutants that come with every fish, because there's no fish that is free from pollutants, whether it's farmed or wild caught. You just can pick your poison. It can be mercury with some, it can be PCBs with others, it can be dioxin with others, but all of them will have pollutants, no exception. And there was some research done and published, both the FDA and it was the FDA and who was the other agency? I can't remember. In the past 2 years, already saying that women that have a chance to get pregnant should avoid eating fish. Start avoiding eating fish a year before they think they want to be pregnant, because they say the pollutants in the fish are so detrimental to the brain that no amount of omega-3 in the fish can rescue the bad effects. So what is it that you can do? So if you were thinking about getting pregnant, or any of your daughters, your granddaughters, what they do is keep the fish, start removing fish at least a year before, because it takes a long time for the mercury to clear from our system. And do take DHA, but from algae, not from fish. Algae, plant source, because the fish itself gets omega-3 from algae that it converts to DHA, which is the long-chain omega-3. So we don't need to eat the fish. We can just get the omega-3 from algae instead. It's going to be pollutant-free and no saturated fat and nothing that comes with the fish. Okay? And here just to show the amount. Flaxseed, among all of the foods, if you don't want to take DHA from algae, you can eat a tablespoon of ground flaxseed every single day. You get all the omega-3s that you need. All right, nuts. I said I was going to say nuts. In the PREDIMED, the study of the Mediterranean diet in the prevention of cardiovascular disease, only showed, let me read again, probably that increased frequency of nut consumption was associated with significantly reduced risk of mortality. Among all of the components of the Mediterranean diet, only increased consumption of vegetables and nuts were related to reduced cardiovascular events. So an ounce of nuts a day are good, especially or only if they are prepared without salt, sugar, oil. It has to be the nut, nothing added to it. Loma Linda, and it's the last one. So some people say, wow, blue zone in the US. Yes. But if you notice, that's what it says, Loma Linda is the only population to trump the longevity of the Okinawas. And they are the only ones that in theory eat 100% plant-based, or the majority of people do, okay? But one thing, before we're just finishing now, is so, and in Loma Linda, they live 10 to 14 years longer than the general population in the US. I know I would love to have 14 more years than the average of the population in the US. So, but one thing I want to make sure here, when you talk about being plant-based, it's not about being vegan or being vegetarian. And I'll explain. Before I went plant-based, I was vegetarian for 20 years without eating any vegetables. I'm sure you know a lot of people like me. When I was in Brazil, I would eat vegetables. Why? Because my mom would cook it. So, and it was easy to go. We have kilo restaurants that you go and you pay by the weight, and every restaurant would have rice and beans, everything I would eat, okay? So I moved to the US. Nobody was cooking beans for me. And there was no kilo restaurant for me to live. So for my first, 5 years in the US, I ate nothing but cheese sandwiches. Oh. Yes, cheese sandwiches. I would buy lettuce. At the end of the week, I would throw the lettuce in the garbage because I didn't even open the thing. So it's not avoiding animal protein. Okay, so there are vegans that can be vegans and not eat vegetables, right? You can be vegan and eat French fries, right? You can eat cookies, vegan cookies. They have a lot of oils. And you can be vegan without eating like No vegetables, no leafy green vegetables, no berries, no nuts. You get the nut bars, they have a lot of, right? So it's not about what you avoid, and that's why we always say plant-based, because it's about what you're supposed to eat. You're supposed to eat plants and whole plants. That's why we say it's about following a low-fat, whole food plant-based diet. So it has to be whole, because I can eat plant-based by eating bread and hummus every single day, correct? I can. So, and I can eat white bread and still be vegan, but it's not whole. So that's why we say whole. Said no refined flour, so it's whole. You eat food the way you see. Here's a garlic, here's an asparagus, the onion, the 2 types of beans, and the tomatoes. You see them and you eat. So whole foods predominantly. This is what makes a difference. It's not what to avoid, it's what you eat. This is our website where we explain all of these things. This is the latest article from Sunday, celebrating Mother's Day. Every Sunday we post a recipe and teach nutrition with something that is current. So we talk about Mother's Day, and I post a recipe that I made specially for my mom, because my mom loves shiitake mushrooms, so I made something with shiitake mushroom for her. And before that, we had an article talking about fish oil. Is your friend or foe? You already know it's not your friend, but if you want to go to the website and read it, the website is, I think it's going to show up, it's very easy. It's like UCD, like UC, University of California, Davis, UCD, IM, integrativemedicine.com. So UCDIM.com. You can sign up with your email here, submit, and you start receiving 2 blog posts every week. On Wednesday, we're going to be talking about olive oil. So if you're curious about it, so you can just sign up for it. Each one of you received this. I don't have one here, but this is basically a fridge magnet for you to have a reminder of all the foods that you can eat, right? So all of these foods can be plant-based, but for instance, if you're eating a vegan chocolate chip cookie, is in the red zone. You're not going to be losing weight, right? And you're not going to be doing much good for yourself. Nuts and seeds are very high in calories too. So like I said, 1 ounce is just a little bit. Nuts are garnish. They are not snacks. That's something that I always tell people. Try like trail mix and all of that. Nuts are not snacks. Nuts is not for you to get a bag and sit and eat while you watch TV. Nuts is for you to sprinkle on your salad, sprinkle on your rice, sprinkle on your oatmeal, and you get plenty. If you eat a snack like handfuls, it's not going to be good for you. It's not going to be as bad as red meat, but it's not going to be as good for you, okay? Oil-based spreads. So there are butters, vegan butters now, and vegan mayo and all, but they are all oil-based spreads. The more you eat, the more you're going to be in the red zone. And oils, all oils, we should be banned from the kitchen. And here, limited consumption things, they are going to be high in calorie, and they're not going to be whole. Those are foods that have been transformed. You can still eat whole wheat breads and bagels. You can have some sugar added to some of your recipes. You can eat dry cereals, but you're going to be in the zone here, right? So if you want to lose weight, you should limit a little bit of this. And these 2 areas here, you eat as much as you want. Fruits and vegetables freely, as many as you want all day long, even when you sleep if you can. So, and then here, the yellow you can't see, but it's the rest. It's the beans, yams, corn, hot cereals, potatoes, pasta, rice, barley. So it's just to help you. And then when you go shopping, I have it here. When you go shopping, for the foods that are not whole, because whole foods have no labels, right? Here, you read everything, you understand, and you can detach. And it's just like a credit card and you take with you in your wallet. It's going to take a little practice, but then after you're going to be a pro. You get the label and say, oh, no. And you read the other, no, oh, no. Very fast. It's a lot faster to The nose is going to be 90%, and sometimes you're going to have a nice surprise and say, I can't believe this one passed, okay? This one passed, this one passed. All right, you come with him. I'm taking you home. Okay, so this one, and you see fat should be less than 20%, no trans fat, zero cholesterol. If it's plant-based, it won't have cholesterol. Sodium is a big one. So sodium, basically, what we say is the amount of sodium in milligrams should be less the amount of calories. So calories here is 270. Sodium could be as much as 270, and it would be a go. If it's more than the amount of calories, then it's too much. Don't take it, right? Sometimes we see something that is like calories 5 and sodium 350. I've seen it. You see when you start paying attention. He is just like carbohydrates, always whole, and then there's the list here. He has to say the words. He has to say whole, rolled, stone ground, sprouted, or cracked. If it doesn't say these 5 words, it's not whole grains, okay? Limit added sugar, then we explain the blog. We have a blog post that explains each one of these things separate. Salt is going to be next Wednesday. No added oil, and I'm going to take this to answer your question. And also, for those that are just starting, if you go to the blog, our blog, you can also get this. Explain where you can find the science. Our blog, of course, is a good resource, but there's all the other places where you can read about it, how to get started, if you want to take a challenge, the books that we recommend if you want to read, places where you can get recipes. You can get recipes in our blog site too. This is a placemat, by the way, so you can print and use as inspiration while you eat. And if you want more inspiration, there are movies that you can watch with family members. And if you want to be part of a community, there's all the communities that you can join. Thank you. And I'm going to answer your question. Now answer other questions. Oil. No oil, ever. No oil. Not even coconut. We wrote about coconut 2 weeks ago. If you go to the blog, all the explanation is there. Basically, every single oil damages endothelial cells and increases risk of atherosclerosis and cardiovascular disease. All of them. Olive oil, you're going to see, it's the article we published this Wednesday, is the one that causes the least amount of damage, but less damage does not mean good. So, and coconut oil, the myth around coconut oil is because coconut oil has MCTs, medium chain triglycerides. But it's about 50% of the saturated fat in coconut oil. Coconut oil is still going to have 44% saturated fat. There's going to be, artery clogging and all of that. There's no reason to add any oil. Oil is a concentrated form of fat. It doesn't exist in nature, right? So if you open a coconut and you eat, great. You want to add, sprinkle, like I said, anything that is high in fat should be garnished, right? Toast the coconut on your oatmeal. But yeah, open, like nuts and coconut, they have a very hard shell for a reason, right? So, and then not only we open, we make it very easy, and then we squeeze it, and we want to eat the oil. No good. If you're going to bake, apple sauce is the #1 replacement that everybody starts with. Up to 1 cup, it can be just even substitution. Now I said fat-free, sugar-free, or salt-free. We said low fat, low sugar, and low salt. We have enough fat. Oatmeal, 16% of the calories in oatmeal is fat. So we have plenty of fat. There's no need to add. Just eating whole foods, we get all the fat that we need. Both the same. Don't worry too much about it. I eat canned beans all the time. I open, they are ready in 5 seconds. The other one I have to, yeah, the way my mom puts it, she soaks the day before, then she washes 5 times, and she uses the pressure cooker, which I don't even like to get close to. So I open a can and I eat. It works. Yeah, the question is about ghee, which is the basis of Ayurvedic medicine. Ayurvedic medicine also uses chicken and fish. So if someone wants to follow Ayurvedic medicine, then there's nothing I can say about it. Evidence shows that the reverse. So ghee has one thing that is different than regular butter, which is all the solids have been removed. But that means you have nothing but 100% fat. So there are people that use ghee to cook their eggs. So if that's what the person chooses to do, there's nothing I can say to prevent the person from doing it. It's not something that we recommend, ghee or anything else. So 100% unsweetened chocolate cocoa bars. Okay, the tough questions for me. Cocoa powder is health promoting. Cocoa powder, and it's low in fat, low in sugar. Chocolate is not healthy food, no matter how dark it is. It doesn't matter. Total fat in dark chocolate. Almost 77% of the calories come from fat. Saturated fat, which we need to keep less than 5% in our diet. Between 29 and 47% saturated fat. Monounsaturated fat, which monounsaturated fat nobody needs, only makes us fat, 16 to 26%. So chocolate is nothing but fat. And it has caffeine too, so those that are slow metabolizers of caffeine should eat sparsely. So to answer your question, special occasions, and you want to eat your chocolate, sure. It's not healthy food. It's not like something that you should be eating every single day. But you know, if it's one square every day and you do everything else right, go ahead and continue to do it. But it's not the same as an apple, unfortunately. Some people say, I like the taste of chocolate. Okay, so mix cocoa powder to your almond milk. You get the taste without the fat and without the sugar. You add the sugar, you can add date paste or date syrup or anything. It's different. Chocolate is not healthy food, unfortunately. But see, you can still eat when people come visit. I cook. Now for the past 2 weeks, I've been doing homemade ice cream because I said I'm going to learn how to make ice cream. But even because there are great vegan ice creams out there, but they all have oil in it, and I don't know the recipe, so I don't know. I cannot control for what they add. And I say, if I'm going to offer ice cream in my home, I want to make it. So I add nothing. I use cashew milk that I make at home. I use cocoa powder. I use dates, and I use vanilla extract. And I put this in the ice cream machine. When I pull the little thing after it was done, it was like grease. Grease. Can you imagine if you add oil and everything else? Because it comes from the cocoa powder and it comes from the cashew. But everything else that we eat, and then we add massive amounts of everything else. So we need to be careful. So I know it's not something for every day, but I want to be able to do that as a treat for people that come into my house, because I know this is going to be better than any other ice cream they're eating. But as you move forward, you should know that it's not a healthy food. You can keep it, but it's not. It's, like I said, better than chicken, but not as good as apples, right? Yeah, so she says her youngest daughter? Oldest daughter did a soft, what do you call it, a soft serve ice cream with banana. My mom tells me the same, and I say, Mom, I like the taste of banana when I eat bananas, not when I eat ice cream. So I want the taste of whatever I'm putting in, but it's one of the easiest things to do. You freeze a banana that has all the black spots, and whenever you feel like, you put in the processor, and then you can add cocoa powder or vanilla or anything, and it's great.
Raspberry.
Yes, raspberry, anything. It works great, yes.
69% by calorie or by weight?
By calorie, always by calorie. It's a great question. I'm going to be talking about it tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, because most people, when we talk about, oh, they have to keep this under this amount, and it's always under a percentage by weight, which is the wrong way of being talking about how to keep your percentage. It's always percentage related to the calorie, total calorie eating in a day. How about cooking with vinegar as much as you want? So no problem whatsoever. Nutritionfacts.org, which is a website I highly recommend, is great. I think today's video was about how much vinegar to add to your cooking so that improves your sugar. The thing that I ask people to pay attention when you go see Nutrition Facts videos is the recommendations that we see there are for people that are eating standard American diet. Okay, so if you're already eating a plant-based diet without oil and without massive amounts of added sugar, are you going to be concerned about how much vinegar you need to add to keep your sugar in check? No, you're not. So it's the only thing that I tell people to pay attention. Is great, but the recommendations come from studies done with people that follow the standard American diet. So you don't have to worry, oh yeah, I need vinegar every day to keep my sugar in check. No. Yeah, but cook as much as you want with vinegar. If you like it, perfect. I mentioned almond milk. What are the milk? It can be any milk that you are willing to make at home if you want, or that you can buy knowing that it doesn't have a lot of added stuff. For example, my husband for the longest time ate soy milk, and there's a brand called West Soy that I could find in one grocery store where we live. But then if you go and read the back, there's 2 ingredients, soybeans and water. But if you go to the soy milk from Silk, it's going to have 23 ingredients. I don't know how many, but it's like avalanche. So it's no good. But it's so easy to make at home that I always make at home. I make almond milk, but it can be cashew. It's 1 part of a nut or of a grain, 3 parts of water. That's all. And it's good to soak before. So I soak the almonds or the cashew or the oats the night before. The next day they're all plump. Then I blend with 3, so it's 1 cup of whatever I'm using, 3 cups of water. I blend everything. Then you have a milk bag, goes through it. Then you put in a glass container, 1 week in your fridge, and that's it. Next week you make again. That's very easy. The cacao nibs, if you can eat them raw, unprocessed, yes. Yes, it's fine. But again, we like to talk a lot about cocoa or cacao nibs and all of it being healthy. Healthy or most health promoting are what we know. The leafy green vegetables, the berries, the starches. Yeah, can you eat the chocolate? Yes, you can. But it's not where you're going to be drawing the majority of your health benefits. What about fruits and vegetables in powder form? Not recommended. The same way we don't recommend drinking calories. Because chewing should be part of the process. There used to be this thought that you couldn't even get the good bacteria to produce whatever it was they were supposed to produce in your mouth and to go. But now we know you can get that even if you drink green smoothies. But the thing is, if you drink your calories and if you eat powdered fruits and vegetables, you are eating a lot more than you would. Like you can eat 3 oranges, but if you squeeze the 3 oranges, you drink them in like 5 seconds. For you to eat the 3 oranges is going to take you some time. And all of this is important too for you to get the health benefits. If I distinguish between raw and cooked vegetables, no, I do not. As long as they are cooked without oil, they are all good. And the thing is, there are things that you're going to lose by cooking, like vitamin C, you're going to lose a lot by cooking. So like if you're eating peppers, I eat salads, a lot of salads that have raw peppers, and sometimes I eat cooked peppers, so it's a good balance, right? But tomatoes cooked, you get more benefits than if they're raw. So it's always a good balance. And we eat tomatoes, they're cooked and raw. Spinach you can eat cooked and raw. So as long as we keep a good balance, you're going to get good nutrients no matter what shape that you decide to eat. All right, what do I think about soy foods? And I'm going to say what Michael Greger told me when I asked him. He said, I don't think anything. I'm going to tell you what the scientific literature says. And it says, what it says, I was supposed to have a slide about soy, and I forgot, because it always comes up. Women, it's not bad for men or women. Soy is not like spinach that you can eat all day long, but if you eat 1-2 servings of soy every day, it's great. Women that had breast cancer that eat the most soy have almost 30% more chance of not having recurrence, not dying from breast cancer after a few years. Like, so can get up to 38 or 40%. So it is protective, and the mechanism that has been shown is that most of you have heard of the BRCA gene, right? The gene that nobody wants to have. 5% of women have a mutation on the BRCA gene that increases their risk of breast cancer. But that means that 95% of women don't have the mutation and still get breast cancer, correct? So BRCA gene is a gene that represses cancer. So the gene needs to be always on to repress the breast cancer from being developed. So the mutation makes the gene be silent. So you have the gene, but it's not being active, correct? Because something goes on top and prevent the gene from being read. So what soy does is comes here to the BRCA and removes the cap. And the people that have the mutation, now BRCA can be expressed, and that it's actually protective even for those who have the mutation. So it's nonsense. Most of the research that we see that says something bad about soy is likely that they were using soy as a supplement, right? So let's get the one element in soy, and let's, it's not something that it was common, but if you're eating the soy, like the tofu or the tempeh, right? The tempeh, some would consider a little better than tofu just because it's fermented, it's the whole grain versus the cracked. But it's no difference. Like a cup of soy milk decreases chance of man developing prostate cancer. Something that I didn't mention about mTOR and milk is, I don't know if you're familiar with the literature, but it's the link is very high between men that drink or eat a lot of dairy and development of prostate cancer. But when you drink, consume soy or drink soy milk, is the reverse. It's protective against prostate cancer. Yeah, the question is about flaxseed, omega-3 in flaxseed. Yeah, omega-3 in flaxseed and all plants. It's the short chain, ALA, alpha-linolenic acid. We eat ALA and we elongate it to EPA or DHA. That's what the fish does. The fish eats the algae and elongates, and you get preformed DHA when you eat the fish. So for a long time it was believed that we could not elongate enough DHA from ALA. But there was a study that came maybe 2 years ago that showed that nature is perfect, right? The people that don't eat, non-fish eaters, the vegans, convert ALA to DHA more than people that eat fish or people that eat meat. And when they check the amount of DHA that meat eaters, fish eaters and vegans had, the vegans had the highest amount of DHA because they need more, then the conversion is not as ineffective as when you're getting preformed. It's the same thing when people ask me about calcium. I didn't have this question yet. Oh, about calcium. Calcium is always very well regulated too. There's three things that make us lose a lot of calcium. Is the amount of protein in our diet, the amount of caffeine, and the amount of salt in our diet. So when people drink milk or eat dairy, they actually lose 1/3 to 1/2 of all the calcium, because when they drink the dairy, they're getting a lot of protein. If it's the cheese, they're getting a lot of the salt, so they're losing a lot. But if you don't have calcium from dairy, and you get from your dark leafy greens and other sources, then your body will keep it. I say, I'm not going to get rid of you, you're going to stay in, so you excrete less. So there's always this balance, and the same occurs with fish oil. So if you were eating preformed DHA, the body said, why would I waste my energy converting LAA to DHA when you already have all you need? But when you don't, then your body is more efficient to produce, and that's what the evidence shows. But even if you don't want to have the trouble to eat flaxseed every single day, you can still take a supplement, but from algae, not from fish. If the study I talk about LAA to DHA, if it's in the blog, yes, it is. I think there's an article on Magic Seeds where we talk about flax seeds. I think if you go there, it's going to be there. Flax, yeah, it's in the Magic Seeds is the blog post. Ah, yes. We have gas, right? Flatulence, gas with beans. So when I ask people to change the diet, the beginning is going to be problematic. Let me show you something here. So I always carry with me, because when I cook my beans, I know how I prepare them. But when I eat beans outside, they're cooked differently. So I always carry with me Beanzyme. Take 2 before you eat your beans, no problem. You're just going to have the same amount of gas you would have without the beans. Nothing extra. Good.